Hello, everyone. I am so glad you could join me for another reading. As always, a huge thank you and shout out to my patrons. You guys are wonderful. Did you know that I have a patron tier of just $1 a month? I said to myself the other day, if half my TikTok followers pledged that amount, $1 a month, I wouldn't have to work at my job anymore. But alas, it is not so. Do you guys want to see a supercut of my ridiculous vocal warm-ups that I do? Also, sorry if I'm been a little scatterbrained for the last 2 weeks. It's been a long couple weeks. But with that out of the way, how about we jump back into the reading? Ha! I'm just going to cut in here at the intro because I do want to give a content warning for this. We are going to be aboard the Gore Leech again and in the decks with the Ore Slaves and what accompanies that as well. If you are sensitive to that, take care of yourself and be aware. Feel free to stop, skip ahead. But above all, please take care of yourself. All right, and back to my weird intro that I am doing. It's this shirt. It brings out a different side of me. We're going to jump right back into The Legend of Luke by Brian Jacques, Chapter 27. Vilu Daskar was used to freak weather in tropical waters. When the storm struck, he ordered his ore slaves to be put to work. I just noticed out of the corner of my eye that the microphone is clipping a lot. Sorry, guys. I want to fix that now before it becomes a continuous problem. With no sails to aid them, they were forced to row double time as the drums pounded out and whips cracked. Daskar himself took the wheel, tacking the Gore Leech skillfully on a direct westerly course. As the tempest began slackening, he swung the vessel due east, came around the far side of the Twin Islands, and anchored a safe distance offshore, behind the easternmost of the two massive hills. Savoring the night air, Vilu sat out on deck, sating his appetite on a plate of baked fish and a flagon of nettle beer. Akla the ferret hovered nearby, watching the stoat pick his teeth with a fishbone. Vilu dabbed at his mouth with a silken kerchief and stood up. Akla gazed anxiously at the remains of the meal, hoping Vilu had finished. "Have you had anything to eat yet, Akla?" Edging eagerly near the barrel-head table, the ferret bowed cringingly. "No chance to eat during that storm, Captain." Vilu held out a paw, as if inviting Akla to finish the meal, then clouted the ferret's face sharply, knocking him to the deck. "Go and find your own food, famine face." From below decks, there was a bellowing roar which mounted to a screech, quickly followed by the thudding of paws up the companionway. Bullflay, the weasel slave master, assisted by some of his cronies, stumbled out onto the deck. He was pressing a wadded rag to staunch the blood from one side of his head. Vilu could see he was in great pain. Nasty injury. How did you come by that, Bullflay?" The weasel's toadies took up the tale with relish. "'Twas the black squirrel, sir. I, the berserk female, tore Master Bullflay's ear off with her teeth. She'd have his other ear if we hadn't rescued him, sire. Madder'n a shark, that is." "No use flogging her, sire. 2 whips Master Bullflay's broke on her. 2!" Vilu sat back, a smile hovering across his eyes. "So, and what would you have me do with this berserk warrior, Bullflay, my friend?" The weasel's flabby jowls quivered with rage. "I want you to let me kill her, sire. Tie rocks to her neck and paws and slide her into the water, nice and slow. Let the other ore slaves watch her drown, bit by bit." Vilu nodded understandingly. "You'd like that, eh, Bullflay?" A drop of blood spattered the deck as the slave master nodded. "Aye, sire, I'd like it fine after what she did to me." Vilu dallied with the bone handle of his scimitar. "I've no doubt you would, but I'm captain aboard this ship, not you. I decide who lives or dies, and that squirrel is not yet ready for death. Cut her food and water for a few days. That should do the trick." Bulflay was about to protest when he saw a dangerous glint in Vilu's eyes. He saluted sullenly. "As you say, sire." Vilu smiled sweetly, perilously. "Precisely, my lard-bellied friend. As I say." He beckoned to Akla, who was still crouching on the deck, holding his face where he'd been struck. "Stop slobbering about down there. Get up. Take 4 crew and go ashore. Climb that hill and mount a lookout for the ship that was following us. Report to me when you sight it. I'll lay an acorn to an apple that they'll do like any other vessel does when they come to Twin Islands. Parug, do you know what they'll do?" The sea rat boatswain shook his head. "No, sire." Vilu closed one eye and squinted towards the channel separating both islands. "They'll sail straight up the middle of there. Always do. We'll be waiting for them when they emerge from the channel mouth, and meet them head-on with our spike. Eh, Parog?" A quiver of evil joy shook the boatswain. "Stick it to him like a gnat on a pin, sire." Vilu filled a beaker with nettle beer, passing it to Parug. "Like a gnat on a pin. What a quaint turn of phrase." Far below the bottom deck of the trireme, Norgal the otter sat on the second row, staring in admiration at the back of Rangiver, sitting alone on the front bench. Lash marks scored and quartered the squirrel's back, where Bulflay had done his best to flog her into submission. He had failed. Every slave chained to an oar throughout the length and breadth of the Gorleech knew it. It brought fresh life and the spark of defiance into the hearts of even the oldest and most timid. Norgal heard the heavy paw-step of Bulflay descending, and murmured softly to Rangiver, "'Tis Bulflay, mate. Get yourself ready for the worst. Like as not, he'll slay you for biting off his ear." The black squirrel's eyes glowed with fierce battle light. "Ha! Not before I've bitten his other one off." "Silence down here! One more peep and I'll flay your backs to the bone, you bilge scrappings." A hush fell as Bulflay's whip cracked aloud. Still holding the rag to his ear, he strode up and stood by the drum. Raising the whip, he glared at Rangivar. "And you'll be the first to get flayed, squirrel." The eyes of Rangivar bored into her hated enemy. "And you'll be the first to die, lard bucket." Bulflay quailed under the berserk stare of Rangivar. He let the whip fall and strode off, muttering, We'll see how bold you are after a couple of days without victuals or water. That'll cure ya." However, when food was served up to the oar slaves, even though it was only a crust, 1 bowl of thin gruel and a cup of water, every beast saved a small portion. When the oar-decks were quiet, the food was passed from paw to paw until it reached the captive berserker. Mid-morning of the following day saw Doolam, whose watch it was at the topmast, bellowing, "Land ho!" Luke joined him at the lookout point. The high, humped hills of Twin Islands stood out fresh and green in the warm sunlight. He patted Doolam's back. "Well done, mate. You get an extra portion of lunch for being the first to spot land." Doolam sighed mournfully. Luke was a warrior, not a cook. And will I have to eat it, too? Luke tweaked his friend's ear playfully. "There's gratitude for you, after me slaving over a hot galley stove since dawn, making skilly and duff for you." Doolam sighed wistfully. "My old mum used to make the best skilly and duff on the Northland coast." Luke chuckled as he climbed out of the rigging. "Well, that ain't your mum. Mayhap we should have brought her along, Doolam." "Aye, mayhap we will next time. She's as good with a ladle as you are with a sword. Dear old mum. Your little man used to come round to our cave for her apple pies. Sweet apples, golden crust, steaming hot, dusted with spices, and a warm arrowroot sauce poured over 'em. I can taste 'em right now." Luke helped Doolam down onto the deck. "Well, let's hope she's still feeding my son, make him grow big and strong. Now, will you stop mattering about those pies? Just turning me off my own cooking." "That wouldn't be too hard to do," Verg remarked in passing. Luke heard him. "What was that you say, Verg?" "I said the sky's far up and blue, mate." Luke glanced upward, remarking quietly to Verg, "There's far worse cooks aboard than me." Verg cupped a paw to his ear. "What? The warrior winked slyly at his friend. I said the sky's as blue as the sea. Afternoon shadows were starting to lengthen as the Sena lay offshore of the Twin Islands. Luke called up to the topmost watch. Any sign of the red ship? Cardo shielded his eyes. None at all, Luke. Verg leaned against the tiller. So what now, mate? Luke studied the Twin Islands carefully before replying. No good chasing out into unknown waters with the Sena in a bad state. No telling what might become of us. I think we should sail it into the flat channel which separates the two islands. It is calm and sheltered there. We could make the Sena shipshape again, fix the mast properly, make a new jib and sew up those torn sails. Sort of puts everything to rights before we set sail again. Eh, Verg? Aye, sounds sensible. But what about the red ship, Luke? Well, we ain't in fit condition to chase her right now. We'll have to make up 2 days while we're sailing again. Strange, though, Verg. I've got a funny feeling that the red ship isn't too far off somewhere. Mayhap 'tis just a fancy, and a little pass. Right, head her in here, mates. We'll make fast to the east channel and bank about halfway along. Later that evening, Akla tapped nervously at Vilu Daskar's splendid carved cabin door. Vilu pulled aside the charts he and Parug were studying. Come! The pirate stoat's voice called imperiously. Akla entered respectfully and made his report. Sire, 'tis like you said. Towards evening, a ship sailed into the channel and put in halfway up the east side. Vilu could not resist a triumphant smirk at Parug. Just as I predicted. He turned back to Akla. What manner of vessel is it? Like an old corsair bark, Captain, but ain't no corsairs aboard of her. They're all mice, tough-looking beasts. She took some storm damage, sire. I think they've put in here for repairs. Parug drew his cutlass and licked the blade. It's dark outside, Captain. We should come storming up the channel like an hawk to the wren, just when they're least expecting us. Vilu shook his head despairingly at the sea rat boatswain. No, no, my impulsive friend. Why wreck a ship that's in need of repair? Leave the mice a while. Let them work and sweat fixing her. Get it all good and seaworthy again. Then we'll swoop in and sink it. Let them see all their efforts destroyed. Much more subtle, don't you think? Parug thought for a moment, his features creased in an evil-toothed cackle. You're a bad one, all right, Captain. Vilu adopted a modest expression. Oh, I do my best to be the worst. Akla, what was the name of this ship? I don't know his letters, sire, but Fleabit does. And he said 'twas called the Sena. Aye, I think that's the name, the Sena. To both the sea rogue's surprise, the captain poured wine for himself and them. Akla and Parug sipped appreciatively from their goblets. Vilu Daskar's wine was the best. Vilu himself merely wet his lips as he mused. Sena. What do you think, my friends? It would have been saner for Sena to give Twin Islands a miss? Akla and the boatswain stared at him in dumb silence. Vilu put aside his wine glass and sighed. That's called a play on words, you bumpkins. Sena. Sena. 'Twas a pun, don't you see? The pair stood in slack-jawed silence, trying to understand what their captain had said. He turned his back, dismissing the slow-witted crew beasts. Dim-witted idiots, get out of my sight before I lose my patience with your thick-skulled ignorance. Begone! Akla and Parug set their goblets down gingerly, not daring to finish the wine, and hurried from the cabin. Vilu's former good humor had deserted him. He detested being surrounded by stupid, witless vermin. Slouching in his chair, he began to focus his mind upon the Sena and her crew. Why would a vessel of such small size be pursuing a ship as huge as the Gorleech? What possible harm could a score or so of mice inflict upon Vilu Daskar, terror of the seas? They must be totally insane, or recklessly brave. Well, one way or another, he would soon find out. And so would they, the fools. Vilu left his cabin and strolled out on deck, almost colliding with a sea rat named Drobna. His claws dug viciously into the rat's cheek, drawing the frightened rodent close. Vilu smiled disarmingly at him. Tell me, what chance does a minnow stand if it chases a shark? Drobna's cheek pulled away to one side, and spittle trickled from his lips as he blabbered about a reply. None, sire. Minnow again a shark got no hope. Vilu released him, patting Drobna's cheek tenderly. Well said, my friend, well said. Even a moron like you can solve a simple problem every now and then. He strode up the gently swaying dock, leaving Drobna rubbing a stinging cheek, completely baffled. And that is where we're going to end it. Thank you so much for joining me. Again, huge thank you to my patrons. You guys are amazing. If you want the exclusive things that patrons get, go ahead and click the link below. Thank you guys for joining me. We are, I would say, like 3/4 through the book. It's been a long season, I guess this could be. But thank you guys for sticking with me. I hope you're enjoying through the ups and downs, the move and everything. And I hope you continue to enjoy it, and feel free to give me your feedback. Well, with that, I will see you guys next week. Stay safe. Wash your hands. Bye, guys.